My name is Steve, and I'm a 69-year-old gay man living in Los Angeles. I'm the eldest of three boys, and all three of us are gay. All three of us. Unfortunately, there were a lot of conflicts in my household. I lived in a lot of fear at that time. As I grew up, even as a young boy, I knew that I was different from a lot of the other boys. I didn't know what gay was. I just knew that I was nervous around the boys in school. I didn't really express my homosexuality. I didn't go to the clubs in Montreal. There were some wild bathhouses and that I knew of, but I was too nervous to go there. And I remember going to this one club on St. Catherine Street called La Rose Rouge, the Red Rose in French. And I remember going in there, and guys were like all kind of trying to grab me. And I was just like, stay away from me. And I left. In my late teens, I even had a girlfriend. We were intimate. I got her pregnant. We had an abortion in Montreal. We arranged for an abortion. That was a very difficult time. I stuck by her throughout the entire process. When I was very young, my first job was as a shoe salesman. There was a gentleman there that worked there that was kind of fruity in his mannerisms, and he invited me over to his house late at night. And I kind of knew that something was going to happen. And it did. Right after I came, the Catholic guilt and shame that I was brought up with kicked in, and I just had to leave immediately. And I quit the job. I didn't want to see that person anymore. After that, I was 18, and I didn't come out until I was 20. So it took me a little while to, consolidate and put it together and realize you're gay. That's all there is to it. So that's when I came out with a major bang. I had to tell everybody. Why did I have to tell everybody? I don't know, but I did. But it was false bravado because inside I didn't accept myself. When I finally did come out to my mother and father, they found it very difficult to cope with this reality. They're not going to have grandchildren from me. At this point, I was the first one to, officially state I'm gay. They weren't happy with it. I remember buying my mother a book about, parents accepting gay children. And my mother read it. I don't know if my father did. A behavior that I have adopted throughout my life, rather than accept rejection, not just for being gay, but just about anything really. As a protection, I would walk away or reject. I don't want to confront. I just would disappear. But eventually, I got in touch with my mother. My father forbade my mother to communicate with me. She did anyways. She'd meet me down at Central Station and, we'd have lunch together secretly. And unfortunately, during that 2-year period where I did not communicate with them, my mother was so upset, she destroyed all my photographs of my developmental years. So consequently, today I don't have too very many. My other two brothers, who were also gay, the next youngest one was Eric. And Eric left the house when he was 16 years old and never spoke to either of my mother or father ever again. At all. By the time Michael came out, my father, who was not a very good father, very emotionally abusive, he had already left the household. And my brother Michael was very studious, very academic. He went to McGill University, very smart man. So then I realized I have two gay brothers. All three of us moved to the United States and became citizens. When I was 20, I left Montreal and I moved to Toronto. I gradually made my way to going to some of the gay bars, and some of them you had to go to enter through the alleyway with the back door and even a password. Can you believe it? I was in my early 20s, and I met this young man, very attractive, kind of a bear kind of a guy. And I went to his house and we made love, and he penetrated me. And it was the most wonderful experience I'd ever felt, ever. And then I caught hepatitis B from this person. And I got very sick. And, I turned yellow, basically, jaundice. And my employer, I loved the job that I had. They paid my full salary because I had to take a month off to recover. They gave me taxi tickets. so I could get groceries, and they were very kind to me. Having had that happen to me kind of closed that back door. And in a funny, well, not so funny way, that was a saving grace, because otherwise I would have probably caught HIV and died with AIDS. I'd gone to a party with another friend of mine in Toronto, and there was a man there, and I was attracted to him, but he was there with a woman, but he left with me. He left her. He left her at the party. He and I eventually ended up moving to Los Angeles. We lived fully. We took 1984 off completely and traveled all through South America. Then we flew over to South Africa, and we went up through Botswana and Tanzania and Kenya, and we did a whole tour for the whole year. He was a pretty famous doctor. We were together for almost 12 years. We bought a house out in Venice. It was a good life, but he was always at work, and I didn't feel very fulfilled. That eventually broke up that relationship. He was a very good man, and after a few years, not even really, we lost contact with each other. And I had always felt guilty about leaving him because he did love me. I'd always look him up because he had published so many papers, and he was very well known that, they'd fly him out to China and Russia to give talks to medical people. And then I learned that he had died. It shook me inside. I was never able to make an amends to him. And that was just last year in 2023. Now, David and I had just broken up, and this man just would not take no for an answer. I did not want to be in a relationship with him, but he pushed himself on me. He was a little younger than me, but not that much. That should have never happened. Should have never happened. And what did I do? I gave in. And that lasted for 2 or 3 years. And then I was single for quite a while. In those days, it was the beginning of the bulletin board, where you could go on and, find men to hook up with. And I did. I wasn't crazy promiscuous, but I hooked up. Eventually, I stopped doing that. I was tired of the impersonal aspects of hooking up with people. They didn't care, what my name was or whatever. And, after the act was done, goodbye, see you, maybe see you never again, probably. So at one point, then I realized that's enough of that. That's not, I'm worthy of better than that kind of a life, definitely. And so I became celibate. Then I met William, who is the most recent love of my life. I love William. We have been together as very close friends for 19 years. Today, I find myself living alone, which is fine. I mean, I've lived alone throughout my life, in different periods. So it's not like I'm afraid to live alone. But I'm not ready to do the promiscuity thing again. I don't want this impartial type of situation. I deserve better than that. I deserve a man that's a good quality person that cares about me. That's kind of where I am in my life right now. I do videos with William, little short travel videos. We have a YouTube channel, and we enjoy doing that. If I could go back in time in my life, I would be less nervous about things. I would have somehow evolved away from the fear that I experienced in my childhood living with my father and my mother. And I would have somehow done away with that and just been more forthright in my life and not be, worried about everything and how things are going to turn out. Throughout some of the fear that I talked about, what evolved sort of in a natural way is that I turned to alcohol and cannabis to deal with the anxiety of what was going on inside of me. Today, I am sober a certain amount of time, actually 2.5 years, and I go to regular AA meetings, and I don't have any desire or urges or cravings or anything like that. I started off in graphics when I was 20. You could tell some people were gay, and so I never really had any prejudice at work. I never really had been rejected. I've never been fired for being gay. I did production. I worked with the creative directors. I worked with the copywriters. the photographers, and that was my job. I really loved doing it. Yeah, that's what carried me for 31 years, and it was very good. I live a very simple life, a modest life. So when I came up to visit Sam today, he was surprised to see a motorcycle pull up to his studio. But nonetheless, I happen to love riding a motorcycle, so that's a good thing. If I had to sum up my life today, I would have to say that for the most part, I'm very happy. I don't have any real needs. I'm very comfortable. I have a comfortable home. I have everything that I need there, and I'm happy with all of that. If there was anything that was lacking in my life, is I would like to develop more real friendships. Friendships where no sex is involved. Real friendships where, I might get invited out to dinner, or into someone's home, a little get together, or into my home that I would throw. I would love those kinds of things to happen. And I'm working at it. I am a work in progress, and I'm not finished. There's still a lot more living to do, a lot more.